So actually, from my family, almost just me and one more brother stayed alive.
Your mother was sent to Treblinka
Yes.
with your brother.
Yes.
Is that the last time you saw her?
Yes, it was in 1942.
Is it the last time you saw your brother also?
This one, yes. I
This
had one brother
you had
that.
one with you in the ghetto.
Yeah, yeah.
Where was your father at this time?
My father was killed in 1940. He was shot by the Germans in 1940 in ghetto.
From the ghetto, what happened?
Then I was luckily, when they eliminated the ghetto, they finished the ghetto, the small ghetto in Częstochow. They were also sending people, either sending people to Treblinka or other camps, and some people they took to work, and I succeeded to go with the group to work in a labor camp in Częstochow, at the town where we lived. There was an ammunition factory, and I worked in that factory till.
You were a machine operator.
Yeah, machine operator, everything that was possible. Sometimes the Germans, they had also ducks, and they asked me to take those ducks to take care of their ducks, geese and ducks. But mostly it's a machine operator I was working. Yes.
You were how old by this time?
13.
13 or 14?
Yes.
Tell me, how did you learn to operate the machine?
Well, they showed me what to do, and I had to do it. If you didn't do it right, then
where was your brother at this time?
He was also
camp
working.
With you?
Yeah, he was also working in that camp.
Tell me a little bit more about the camp.
Well, we were living over there in the wooden shacks that were, people were laying one next to the other, like really like sardines. And it wasn't, you didn't have hygiene because you didn't have where to take a shower, and we had over there lice and all kind of it was well, it's really hard to describe now after you live such a normal life. It's really hard to describe how bad it was, but it was terrible. And food, you didn't get too much food. You were getting a piece of bread and one small bowl of soup a day, and that's what it was. And I remember one day I had a toothache, and they told me, well, you have to go to a dentist.
Are you stopping it for a minute?
Yeah.
Can I talk now?
Sure.
You need to ask him more specific. It's very hard for him to talk the last couple of years. So you need to ask him more details, how did you hide, what you do, that they will think that you are taller or bigger than you. So then he'll remember all the events.
Okay. Thank you.
Ready?
So where were we?
It's okay. We'll come back to it. I am curious, and we'll get a little bit more into the details of the camp, but I am curious about how do you think you were surviving during the day? I mean, I know physically how you were surviving, but where were you getting your will to keep going?
Well, I will tell you, we had, in that camp in Częstochow, we had over there, I don't think he was a rabbi, but he was a very religious man, and he tried to teach people, especially youngsters, whatever he could. And he told us, you do every possible thing to survive and stay alive so that people once will know what happened here. Those was his words that I remember till today. And I tried to follow it as long as I could for this reason, also for reason of surviving, because, you want to stay alive. The will of life is pushing you to do things that you don't think about them, but you do it. And I did every possible thing. When in order to survive, they were always taking children out because they didn't need children. To look older, I was, if it was snow, then I was making a pile of snow and trying to stand on the pile of snow when they were counting us, so that I will look taller and maybe older, so they won't think that I'm a child and take me out for it. And I think that this helped me because, if you are small, they will right away were disposing of you because what do they need you for? They needed people that were strong and able to do any work that they needed. Children, they were like a burden for them. So what did they needed? So this was also a thing that I think that helped me to survive not once, just to pass through a selection. Sometimes we were standing hours in snow. This especially later in Buchenwald when it was in January, in February, in March in Germany. It's so cold. And we were standing hours outside and they were counting us and always making mistakes in counting, so counting and recounting, and we were standing hours in the freezing temperatures. So I was always then making those piles of snow with my feet, with my shoes, and then standing on that pile, so I will look as tall as other people at least, so that they will, that they won't take me out from it. So, and as I told you, I was in a family, I was a strong and healthy child, and it helped me also, I was pretty strong because I was always, my family, we were well off, and I ate good, and I was taken care of as long as my mother lived. So it helped me also to be strong and healthy.
Did your faith play a part at all?
No, I can't say especially, yes. Sometimes, you were always questioning, how can this possibly happen if you have a God? But, you did every possible thing just to stay alive. And you didn't have chances, to pray.
Tell her about the beating that you were getting beat on the back.
Well, you did every possible thing to survive. There were, I told you about this counting. Sometimes if you were late for the count, you had to go to a special place where they were beating you as a punishment for being late. And because I was a child, so one of those days he said that the Germans that was beating, and I was over there a few times, so he remembered me. He says, well, today you will do the beating. And he gave me that stick, and there were other people with me that were also late, and they had to lay down, and I had to beat them with that. It was like a baseball bat, something like this. And the other people were happy that I am beating them because I wasn't as strong as the German. So I was beating, and he told me, stronger, I couldn't beat them stronger. At the end, he said, well, now I will show you how you are supposed to beat somebody. And I had to lay down, and he beat me as long as I just passed out. And this is one of those beatings that I got from them. For just being late a few minutes to a count.
Tell me a little bit more about later. You were at the camp for how long?
In that camp, I was about 2 years, I think.
You were there for 2 years.
Yeah, and then they sent me from that camp when the Russians were coming closer to the town where we were in. They sent me back out to Buchenwald. Also it was a trip cattle car, you know, about 100 people. We were about 100 people in one car. And the trip was about, I don't remember, 4 or 5 days from Poland to Buchenwald to Germany. It was in January, it was cold. And from the day they closed the door of the car, they didn't open until we got to Buchenwald. And people died over there, and of course people relieved over there, and with all that dirt and smell and everything, you had to live in that place. And
This was when? Do you recall?
yeah, this was in January in 1945.
And this was when you were being transported to which camp?
Buchenwald in
Buchenwald.
Germany, yes.
And that's where you were liberated in April,
Yes,
right?
right.
So tell me, what did you do in Buchenwald?
In Buchenwald, it was already towards the end of the war, and they were supposed to ship us to another factory that was making ammunition, but they didn't have enough trains. So we were just in Buchenwald. Most of us, what we did, we were standing in the cold, as I told you, and they waited for people to die. And that a lot of people died over there, you know, just from cold and from they didn't have enough food. And I didn't work in Buchenwald, except I didn't work in Buchenwald.
When did you start hearing or finding possible rumors that there was liberation from the Soviets?
From the Soviets, I didn't have those rumors. When we were in Buchenwald, we heard, you know, the bombing, that the planes were bombing each time closer and closer to our area. And then it was on April 11, 1945, we suddenly came out and we didn't see the Germans anymore in the towers, you know, in the watchtowers. We didn't see Germans, and we climbed on the roof of that wooden barrack that we were living in, and we saw from both sides of Buchenwald, we saw tanks, American tanks coming from both sides of Buchenwald. And that's how we were liberated.
Can you go back and tell her about the piece of bread that you had and the snow that you took from the...
On the train, when I left Poland to Buchenwald, on the train, I had a piece of bread with me that I had in my pocket. And because we didn't get no food on the way, so each night I doing it at night because I was afraid that somebody will know that I have a piece of bread and will take it away from me. So each time at night I was breaking a small piece of bread and eating just to stay alive. So.
One bite of bread a night.
That was on my way on the shipment from Poland to Buchenwald.
So your one piece of bread was your meal for 5 days in transport?
Yeah. Well, I divided it each time.
About the snow.
Yeah, of course, to drink water or something, we were scraping snow from the roof of the car and melting it into the water. And this reminds me of, I told that story to my granddaughter, and when she was 6, 7 years old, when she was in 2nd grade, I think, the teacher asked the children, what do you say from nature? What do you know about things that are really useful and good for people? And one said, rain, because things are growing, and somebody said snow. So she said, no, snow is not that important because it's cold. And my granddaughter, she was then 7 years old, she thought, no, snow is very important. If not snow, my grandfather wouldn't stay alive. And she told him the story how I was scraping the snow and melting. And then really, it made me feel so special, good, that somebody could tell it. Even a girl 7 years old could tell us things like this.
So for forever associate snow
Yeah.
with life,
Yeah.
which is nice that you gave her that. Tell me a little bit about April 11th.
April.
You saw the tanks coming from the roof.
Yeah, and then of course the American troops came in, and you suddenly felt free because you could go wherever you wanted. Nobody told you no, nobody was shooting at you, nobody was beating you, and we got food enough, more than enough even, because some people ate too much and got sick from it.
Tell me about that first meal. Do you remember what it was?
First meal what I made is actually something I liked always, scrambled eggs with sausage. And we didn't have eggs, it was egg powder.
Okay, I need 1 minute. How did you have the egg powder? Tell them
Okay,
you were in
that
the
better.
hospital.
Egg powder, and I made like scrambled eggs with sausage. This was the first things that I ate, and I really enjoyed it. And then we had food, normal food. We are getting normal food.
This was in the hospital. I mean, what did you eat when the liberators came? Do you remember?
Well, I got sick short time before the liberation, and I was in a hospital just was over there, and over there in the hospital, I was with Polish people, which they helped me out a lot, and they had some food that they got through Red Cross or whatever. I don't know exactly what kind of sources, but they had more food, and they were giving me some food, some extra food. So that helped me out too, and from them I also got some of that powdered eggs I told you and the sausage.
How were you feeling about that time? You were liberated? You had
Yeah,
lost
I
your
was.
parents?
Well, I knew that my brother, the other brother that was left in Poland, I knew that he wasn't shipped, that he was left over there. So I was thinking about going back to Poland to look for him. And maybe this is another story I have to tell it to. And my brother knew that I was shipped to Germany, so he survived in Poland. A day after I was shipped to Buchenwald, he was liberated in Poland, in the same camp that we were working. And he knew that from all our family, if somebody survived, then it's me, and I knew that if somebody survived, it was him. So he decided he would go looking for me in Germany. And I wanted to go look for him in Poland. And at that time, you didn't have transportation, regular transportation, and I was already in a line to go in a bus that was supposed to go to Poland, and it was just a certain amount of people that could be on that bus. And I was already on that bus, and then came over there a woman, a Polish woman. She said she has to go to Poland because she heard her son is injured and sick, and she has to go to Poland. She won't move. She stood in front of the bus. She said she won't move from the bus. She has to go. Well, what did they do? They took the youngest person, which was me, and they said, well, you will go with the next bus, which will be in a couple of days. And they took me off of that bus, and that woman went on, and they left. A day after that, my brother arrived in Buchenwald to look for me.
It's amazing.
And he looked for me in the Jewish committee that was over there, and they told him, well, he's not here on the list, because I was with the Polish people, as I told you, I was with the Polish people in that hospital, and I want to go back to Poland, so I was on the Polish list. And they said, well, if he's not here, then he probably was sent to France, because all the youngsters that stayed here were sent to France. From there, part of them are going to Palestine, part to United States, and part to Sweden. Well, so what he decided, he will go to France. He goes outside, and then he meets somebody from our town, and then he tells him, how did you come? He said, well, I came now from Poland to look for my brother, and they send him to France. He said, what friends? I saw him just half an hour ago. He's fixing a bike over there. And he took him, brought him over there. And this was also lucky, because if he would go to France, and then I will, after 2 days, go to Poland, I don't know if we would meet again. I don't know when and how, if we would meet again, but it was luckily for both of us that things like this worked out.
What was the reunion like?
Oh, it was, well, he saw me or whatever. When he came, and that man that brought him called me Lipschitz, that was my name then, and I turned around, I saw him. It was like a miracle. I wouldn't believe that will happen. You know, I wanted it to happen, and I did every possible thing that it will happen. That's why I was ready to go to Poland, and he was ready to come to Germany. And it happened, and from then on we were together.
Where'd you go from there?
We went, because the place where we were was supposed to be on the transfer to the Russian side. We decided we will go to another zone, not to stay in the Russian zone, we'll go to the American zone or British zone. And we decided that there's no place for us to stay in Europe. We will go to a place that is close to a sea, and maybe we catch a ship to some place. And we went to Hamburg in Germany. And over there, I was in Hamburg. Over there, I met Jewish soldiers that were in the Jewish brigade in the British Army, and they took also youngsters together, started to teach us, made a school and started to teach us, and put in us the love of Israel, and from there I went to Israel.
How long were you in Israel?
In Israel I was 22 years.
22 years.
I was in Israel from 1946, and I was between the first soldiers in the Israeli army. I was even before that in Palmach, which was kind of an underground unit. And I was injured in one of the battles of Jerusalem. I got a bullet here in my head. And I was in Israel for 22 years.
What brought you to the States?
My brother, he ended up in the United States. And I was in Israel, and then he was here, and he got injured in a traffic accident, and he needed some help here, and I came over to be with him here.
Here in Tennessee?
Yeah, in Nashville.
In Nashville. And so you came here in 1968?
Yes, and I am here till today, and probably till the day I will die.
Many years to come.
When did you start? When did you start really dealing with memories and things that had happened to you?
Well, at the beginning, really, I didn't talk too much about it, and then when I was here, I was approached also to talk before schools, students, and I was talking for a while. I remember one time I was at school, and a girl wrote me a letter, because I finished my talk, and I told them, one thing I would like you to remember is always that there are people that are talking that there would never happen the Holocaust, that you will be able to tell them that you met a Holocaust survivor and you know that something like this happened. And I hope that you will tell it to your children and grandchildren about things like this too. And that girl wrote me a letter, and she wrote me, I came home and I told my dad and my mom and my grandfather about things that you told me, and they said that they never heard about it. So I can promise you that I will tell it to everybody, and even to my children and grandchildren. This made me feel so good, because if a girl like this, she was, I don't know, probably 12 years old or 13 years old, and if she promised something like that, if she told her, even her parents and her grandfather about things that they didn't hear about it, and they didn't know about it, so I was really happy I did something like that, and I was talking about it. But with the time, I don't know, I'm getting soft, or I don't know. I start crying, and I cannot talk.
He's crying. Usually, he never cries. He's a person, a very strong person, never cries. But the last year it's a little bit harder, and I think that he should start talking now.
It just makes me feel uncomfortable.
And he usually talked about it. I'm his wife, but I know every little detail, and my children know every detail, and my granddaughters, from a young age, were allowed to ask him anything, and they know everything about his life. So it will actually will continue on to be told.
Right. Don, would it be okay if she sat next to him?
Sure.
Would you like to sit next to him?
I'm sorry. We went about 12 years ago to Poland, and when we came there, I recognized every place. It's like I lived there, you know. I was born in Palestine, in Israel, you know. I'm in Sabra. But I knew so much, every little detail, that I felt, you know, that I was there. I never can feel what he went through, and I cannot understand how somebody can go through things like this and stay alive. I'm sure if I would be the kettle, you know, going to Buchenwald, I wouldn't survive.
I had a question about that, you know, that you said you knew that in your family, if anyone survived, it was your brother, and he knew that if anyone survived, it was you. And then earlier you said that, you know, when you decided not to go out of your hiding place in the ghetto, you didn't attribute that to bravery, but, you know, you just, you know, wanted to survive, that sort of thing. You knew that was what you had to do to survive. But what characteristics do you think are in a person who you feel like, you know, that makes you think that they could survive something like this? Like, what do you base? Why do you think that your brother would have survived? You know, what are those?
Well, it's simple. I knew that my parents, my mother and brother, were sent to Treblinka, which was a death camp, and nobody survived in the camp. My brother, it was just about 3 or 4 months that we separated, and I think that 3-4 months was more. He was young and strong, so I believe that if somebody could survive, he would be able to survive. But it wasn't, because he wasn't a death camp. I knew, and I heard then that the Russians were coming over there and they liberated the town. So
You know, some survivors have said it was serendipitous. It was luck that they survived. Some said it was faith. Some said it was strength.
Yeah,
I think it's all together.
You think it's a combination?
I think it's a combination of all together, because nobody was too smarter or stronger. It was really a combination of all together. Because some days you were lucky, some days you were smarter, and some days you were, I don't know, somebody else was stupid.
Were you a religious man when you went in?
No, not especially.
He was 10 years old, you know.
Yeah, no, my mother was more religious than my father, let's say. Yes. We
So
had
you
the
didn't
religion.
come up in an Orthodox home?
No, not Orthodox, but we were
But
religious.
you went to the cheder.
Yeah, my mother, we were living a Jewish life.
Yeah.
And, you know, and on holidays we were going to the synagogue. And
The reason why I ask you is because some people have said that it was their faith and their religion, their upbringing, that kept them through, and some people felt that it wasn't.
No.
No,
And I'm looking for what you.
I wouldn't say that religion kept me.
He
But-
was the youngest child of 3 children, and they had a nanny that if he forgot his food, brought him food to school. So he was not, he was strong, built strong, you know, but he was not ready to things like this. But he's a very strong-willed person. Even after this, when he was injured, he did things that nobody else does. He's 63% disabled, but he never felt this way, and he never acted this way. So I think that he's a very strong person, not only physically, but mentally. Because when he told you about the children that he stayed with the two of them, it's not only that he didn't leave, he put his hands on their mouths that they will not say anything. So this is things that came to him naturally.
And that's extraordinary for his age.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was then
yeah.
11 years old, I think.
In that experience in the ghetto? Is that-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you recognize now, as an adult, and having children that were 11 and 10, do you recognize how extraordinary that was?
Yes, and why I did it till today, I don't know. I can't explain it. I did it, but I don't know why.
They had some wires that they were hiding in a furniture factory that all was wood between furniture. And there were only women and children. And there was a fire from a wire. And he said that he took some coffee. They had a very, very thick coffee and threw it on it. And the fire, they didn't have the fire. And he still doesn't know why he did it, but it worked. Sometimes
No,
it could be...
This was just an instinct, you have fire, you want to, and electricity and water or some liquid don't work together. But in that coffee was, the thick,
Grains.
the grains of coffee set on that wire, and this what kept the fire out.
So this is also luck,
Well,
but it did something. Nobody did anything.
These
It did
people told me
something.
later that what I did was right. I didn't do it because I knew it's right.
Yeah.
That's what you did the right thing at the time.
What do you want people to know about
What-
what happened? What would you want people to know?
First of all, I would like nobody to forget it happened. This is number one. And then, of course, do every possible thing that won't happen again to nobody, not only Jewish people, to anybody else on the world. Because this is something that is so unnatural. You don't do it to. We are having pets and we are taking care of animals and everything, and just to act like this toward people, I think this is. I don't know. I can't understand it. How somebody can be cruel like this?
I think that the worst thing that they did, they took their dignity. Because you were nothing. Means if you were going in the street and if a German wanted to kill you, he would kill you. If he wanted to hit you, he would hit you, You were nothing. So he always tried not to be seen, not to be seen, so nothing will happen to him.
How do you deal with the memories now?
I'm living with them, but I will tell you, let's say, if I think now about German people, if I think about German people my age, I think, what could they do? They were my age. I couldn't do nothing. They couldn't do nothing. But their fathers and grandfathers, them, I will never forget, and I will never stop blaming them for whatever they did. So actually, really, how can I blame somebody? If I was 12 years old, what could another 12-year-old boy do that it won't happen? If they do today things that won't happen, I would appreciate it, because this is the right thing to do. But I will never forget what their fathers and grandfathers did. This I will never forget, and this nobody should ever forget.
I've heard some survivors say they felt more betrayed by their countrymen than by the Nazis themselves. Did you feel that way?
This is probably his father felt this way, because his father had a big shoe factory that was the biggest in Poland, and he dealt with the Germans. And his mother wanted to go to Palestine, when it started, and he said, I deal with these people, they are my friends, and he never thought that they will do something to him. So I'm sure that he felt betrayed. His mother probably, the older people felt betrayed. As a child, he probably,
As a child, you have a sense of feeling protected by adults, and you weren't protected by them any longer.
No, sure. You see, I didn't have really Polish people. Personally, they didn't do to me nothing wrong. On the contrary, as I told you in Buchenwald, Polish people helped me out. But they were not regular Polish people. They were people that were also in camp. They were also arrested and subject to all the prosecutions. So like one enemy to another, they were helping. Not it wasn't just like helping me because I was better or worse. And I know about people. Even one of my cousins that I was hiding with her too, and I left that hiding place. She was in that hiding place, and a Polish child discovered that hiding place and brought the Germans over there, and she got killed because of it. So some Polish people didn't help us. They did the wrong things, but personally, to me, it didn't happen.
But I want to say that during all the years, he was not emotional about it. He was telling it as it is, that people will know about it, and he was not emotional about it. At nights, sometimes he will tremble or give a cry. He doesn't know what it is. I will pet him and tell him it's okay, and he will sleep back. But he has some bad memories that probably dreams about them. He doesn't want to acknowledge. He says it's nothing. It doesn't, because this is the kind of person. He doesn't want to acknowledge that it still bothers him. It's only lately that he is very emotional, and maybe because of his age, it comes back, and maybe he sees it's different, than he saw it all the years. So he's very much emotional lately.
I think also at the beginning, after the liberation, and even towards the end of the liberation, I tried maybe not to think about it, which helped me maybe to survive. Because, if you are thinking about it every minute and every day, you were losing your faith in life at all. And keeping it out of your mind, just telling yourself you have to keep going on, and don't look about the bad things that's happening, and just look for tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow will be a better day. It helped me also.
April 11th remains a special day for you.
Yes, that's right. I am celebrating like my second birthday, which is, not unofficial. I'm not getting twice older in a year, but
But it's a rebirth.
It's like because I think if this wouldn't happen, April 11, I don't know how long I would stay alive. Maybe another day, maybe another week, maybe I wouldn't stay alive at all. So this is like a second birthday to me.
He had an uncle in Buchenwald that he used to help him. He had a little bit more food than everybody to give him some food, to the Weierbad. And in the end, they took all the people to march. They wanted to take all the people. Because he was in hospital, they didn't take him. And the uncle wanted him to help him, but they told him, if you will help him, they will take you. So the uncle went off the march and perished, of course.
As I
he
told
felt
you,
very bad about
you
it,
are asking about people. The Polish people helped me. In that hospital, those Polish people, they were actually like they were responsible for it.
Like
they were looking at that everything will work over there, and they said, if the Germans are coming here to take you, because sometimes the Germans were coming to take, they were taking all the Jewish people, they might come to take out the Jewish sick people from the hospital also. If your name is not Marian Lipschitz and your number is not 114980, or your number will be a different number, a different name, because they wanted to switch me with a Polish person that they knew that he was so sick that he won't survive. So they wanted to switch me, give him in my name if the Germans come. So actually those people helped me. They were Polish, but to me they were friendly at that time. And they did a lot for me, I must say they did. So
you hold on to that too.
There are all kinds of people everywhere.
Actually, he came in sick, but when he got better, they asked him if he wanted to stay there. They didn't send him back. If they would send him back, who knows if he would be alive. They gave him, a pajama or something to wear, and they asked him to help in the hospital, to do things in the hospital. So this way he stayed there, and I'm sure that it helped him to survive. So it's, again, it's luck too, it's strength and luck and everything together.
Strength and luck and faith.
And faith, yeah.
Mhm.
It's been a tremendous honor meeting